How you doing, Met fans, and welcome to another edition of the Terry Collins Show, presented by Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Your donation of just $11 a month will transform the lives for families of fallen first responders, Gold Star families, and injured service members. Go to t2t.org and donate today. I'm John Arezzi. Let's bring on the former skipper of the New York Mets and analyst for SNY's Baseball Night in New York, Mr. Terry Collins. How you doing, Terry?
I'm doing great, John. Thank you. I'm looking forward to today's show. And, we're going to have John Franco on. And, I've known John since the day he signed as a professional baseball player with the Los Angeles Dodgers. I was managing the minor leagues, and we've been friends for many, many, many years. And he'll have some fun things to say.
Yes, we will. We're looking forward to that, and that's kind of what our focus is going to be on this week's show. Is that extended interview with John Franco. We will also have another Amazin Hero of the Week presented by Tunnel to Towers. But Terry, without any further ado, let's go right to this week's Talkin' with TC with Mets Hall of Famer John Franco. Our guest on this week's Talkin' with TC is a former relief pitcher and has played for the Cincinnati Reds, the Houston Astros, but most known for his days with the New York Mets. From 1990 to 2004, he's a four-time All-Star, a three-time NL saves leader. His 1,119 games pitched in the majors ranks number one all-time in the National League and fourth in Major League Baseball history. His 424 saves is the most by a left-hander in MLB history as well. He was a team captain for the Mets, is a member of their Hall of Fame. He's also a member of the Staten Island Sports Hall of Fame and the National Italian American Hall of Fame as well. We'd like to welcome Johnny Franco to Talkin' with TC. How you doing, John?
I'm doing great, guys. How are you guys doing?
Very well.
Well, we're doing great, John. Thanks for coming on the show. It's certainly a pleasure to have you on. And I will tell you, John, one of the things he has all those numbers. If things would have gone right, he would have done all those numbers with the Dodgers. I'm going to tell you because I was managing the Dodger organization when we drafted John, and his first year he went to Vero Beach, Florida, to pitch for Dave Wallace, who absolutely loved him. And I know when the Dodgers made the trade, and I understand trades are made to help the big league club, but that's nobody ever brings it up too much, but that's one of the worst trades that they've ever made was losing Johnny Franco, because he would have set all those big marks with the Dodgers for years. So it's great to have you on the show, John.
Thanks, Terry. It's always good to see you, especially when you were here in New York managing. It's always good to sit down and talk to you. I think you and I are both on the same page at baseball as little old school guys, and we just love to shoot the breeze about baseball. And getting back to the Dodgers, I went to the game last night, the doubleheader. I stood for the first game, and I always make sure that I always go to Citi Field or Shea Stadium when the Dodgers came into town, because I always have a special place in my heart for the Dodgers, because they're the ones that gave me an opportunity. They signed me. Steve Lembo, Dick Teed, Gil Presetti, those were the scouts. And you mentioned my favorite pitching coach and Dave Wallace in Vero Beach. But, I could have went to Lodi that year when you were the manager in Lodi, I believe, right, in 81? So
yeah, John, you could have, except back then, it was different, because every team had to have a high class. With Class A, there's a high level and a lower level. Well,
right.
The Dodgers, we had two high-level A's clubs. And the only thing was the Vero Beach team was owned by the Dodgers. That's where they trained. So they wanted all the best guys. So
right.
And by the way, when you came to me, I didn't have a pitching coach. So you
would have been my pitching coach.
You were elected to get Dave Wallace and be around him. Although, John, I'll tell you, in the second half of the season, after the draft, we got Jim Brewer, who came in. He was going to teach the screwball because of Fernando coming through. And I'll tell you what, boy, you got to the big leagues in a hurry because you had great stuff. But I'll tell you, Jim Brewer could have helped you too. He was an outstanding pitcher.
Yeah, I met Jim a couple of times with the Dodgers. He was really great to be around. I had Stan Wozniak was my manager when I first got there, and then unfortunately had a heart condition, and we missed him for a little bit. And Popovich, Greg Popovich was my Popovich? Paul
Paul
Popovich
Popovich, yeah.
was the manager, and Dave Wallace and John Schumacher was the third base coach. So I think Schu's probably still there, or he might have retired. I know he was in for 50 years.
He's still
But
there, John.
I said a great pitching coach, and I've said it before in a number of interviews that I've done. I owe a lot to Dave Wallace, uh, not only because of the way he was a great pitching coach, but the way he straightened me out. Because I remember I was pitching a game in Vero Beach, and the previous game I was striking guys out, and this game so happened I was getting ahead, but I wasn't putting guys away, and my body language and my facial expressions, and I never forget, Dave called timeout, came out to the mound, told the catcher everybody stay off the dirt, and really got into my face and called me everything underneath the sun that you can get away with back then, but now you can't get away with, because I would have went right to the HR and reported him. But I tell you what, I remember him cursing me from the sun to the moon, telling me this and that, and I left the mound with my mouth open, and I said, you know what, this isn't college no more, and that really straightened me out. From that day on, I became a pitcher on how to deal with my emotions on the field, and Dave was really instrumental to that.
Well, it's a great, the hard part, John, if you remember back then, at Vero Beach, they didn't have any tops on the dugouts. So,
Oh no.
and then nobody was covered. There were no covers of the stands. So, in Florida, in the middle of the summer, it's raining all the time. So to have a discussion on the mound is the only place you can have it, because you can't have it in the dugout because you got the fans that are sitting 4 feet behind you. So, I managed there the next year after you left, and that was a tough place to manage. A minor league team was, in Vero Beach, but it was exciting, and certainly, we everybody in the organization was, we prided themselves on making sure our players got better, and certainly the Dodgers have done for years and years, really first class
organization all the way.
Great coaches, and we really miss you. And I'll tell you, I remember when you first got to the big leagues that we were all in the minor league coaches room, and we all said, man, this is going to come back to haunt us as an organization, and it certainly did. But what a great career, John. I mean, coming to New York, being a New Yorker and pitching for the Mets for those years, it had to be a great thrill for you.
It was. I started out in Cincinnati, and when I got traded to Cincinnati, I had Paul O'Neill was there, and Barry Larkin and Ron Oster and Ken Griffey Sr. Those were my teammates, and all those guys were from the Cincinnati area, and they were playing in front of their home crowd. And I was always like, man, this would be great to come home to play for the Mets. And lo and behold, I got traded a few years later, wound up playing here for 15 years. And, I wouldn't change a thing. The only thing I would have changed, I would have liked to make the playoffs a little bit more, but we, unfortunately, we didn't do it until 99 and 2000. But had a great time here. Tough place to play. As you know, the fans are very instrumental and very vocal, and you have to have some thick skin and learn how to turn the page here. And growing up here, I kind of expected that. And when you do great, they love you, and when you do bad, they let you know. And when you do bad, you got to, stand in front of your locker and take it like a man and say, "Hey, I was bad today," and move on and turn the page.
Yeah, John, that's the thing. I believe, in my time in New York, accountability is all anybody wants. I mean, the writers want it, the fans want it. Hey, nobody's perfect in this game, and it's a tough game. And, you were one of the best that ever played it. So to be able to have you sit in front of your locker and say, hey, it wasn't my night today. I didn't have my best stuff and made some bad pitches, and you move on. And, it's the guys who try to come up with an excuse, whether, the balls weren't good tonight, or it was rainy or something else. It's that doesn't fly in New York.
No, it doesn't. And one of the first things, when I first got traded here, Jay Horwitz, who we both know and both love, gave me that great information and great advice. He said, when you have a bad game, stay in front of your locker. When you have a good game, stay in front of your locker, because the writers and the reporters and everybody covering the team will respect you more that way, rather than not show up in front of your locker. And I did play with guys who had bad games and wouldn't even come out and talk to the press. So, and that way, like you said, the stand in front of your locker and be accountable for what you did and what you didn't do goes a long way here.
Yeah. So, John, I mean, all your time in New York, you got to see two of the greatest Mets in history who are having their numbers retired this summer. Tell us about your first time watching Doc Gooden pitch.
Well, obviously he was from the other side, being in Cincinnati when he first came up, and he was he was amazing, man. He just threw his glove out on the mound that year and just could beat you. And fortunate for me, I got to know Doc off the field too. Became friends with him. What a great guy, what a great human being. But he was just lights out, like for a young kid to come up and be that polished and the way he pitched and when he did that curveball, he had that great riser, that four seamer, but that curveball just buckled everybody. And his presence on the mound, he didn't get rattled, it didn't bother him, but he was a gamer and he come right at you. He was something to watch. I enjoyed watching him, and then became teammates with him later on. When I got traded to the Mets, obviously it was toward the tail end of his stay with the Mets. He had some arm issues and some other off-field issues, but he was, to this day when I see Doc, he's one of my favorite people. And I'm hoping that he gets his life straightened out off the field. On the field, we know what he did, and what he accomplished on the field. I don't think you'll ever see that for a while.
So how did you do when you faced Straw when he first came up?
Thanks, Terry. You had to bring that up, right? So I did pretty well against Straw in this one particular game at Shea Stadium, because I used to pitch really well against the Mets. And I remember I had 2 outs in the ninth inning, and Keith Hernandez was up, and I virtually handled Keith Hernandez pretty well, and I walked him on a 3-2 pitch, close pitch. And I'll never forget, it was 2 outs in the ninth, and Scott Breeden, our pitching coach for the Reds at the time, came out to the mound, and I was like, okay, why is he coming out? I'm not struggling. I just walked Keith Hernandez, and I guess he just came out to give me a breather or whatever. So he turned around and walked back, and Strawberry was coming up, and the first pitch I threw to Strawberry hit off the scoreboard, so I wound up losing 3-2 that day. So I think that was the only time Darryl got me, but it was a game winner, that's for sure. And my brother, who was a big Met fan, that following day put a strawberry shortcake on my porch in front of my door. So I got my brother back that night. I left him tickets in the mezzanine section instead of the family section. So, but yeah, Darryl and I had some great battles. He's another guy who I'm happy for. I'm glad that he's turned his life around. He was a tremendous athlete. I think what he could have been and what he did and what he could have done, even more expectations. I mean, he was one of the best players in the game. Probably a 5-tool guy who could run, hit, throw, steal bases. So he was a good guy, great guy off the field. And again, I have a great relationship with Darryl, and I'm glad to see that they're retiring his number along, which they did Doc earlier this year, and they're doing Darryl's on Saturday. So I'm happy for Darryl.
John, I will tell you, when I first got to the big leagues with the Pirates, coaching with the Pirates, and you were a star reliever in the league. I always knew one thing about when I watched guys go, those pitchers, those great pitchers, there were certain guys they didn't like to face. And by the way, there were hitters, and I don't care who they were, there were certain pitchers that they didn't want to face. So, looking back on your career, is there one guy that you said, I don't have any problem with this guy, who was a great player? I mean, great, like you said, Darryl. I mean, how'd some of the great hitters that you had to face with, there one guy that you just said, he can't hit me?
There are a few. I mean, I didn't have problems with the home run hitters, Terry. I didn't have problems with the big home run hitters. It was the contact hitters that gave me. Like Tony Gwynn was a pain in the butt, and I mean, I'm sure he's a pain in the butt to everybody. And when I came up with Cincinnati, Tony Gwynn was in the Western Division, and the Reds were in the Western Division. So I would face him and I'd throw him a pitch away, base hit to left, pitch him in, base hit to right, base hit up the middle. Finally, I just put my hands up and said, "The hell with it. I'm going to throw a ball down the middle, and I hope he hits a goddamn line drive at somebody," and which he did. A guy like Mariano Duncan was another guy that gave me a former Dodger. We played in the minor leagues together. That guy, all he had to do was put his bat in the batter's box, and he'd get a hit off of me for whatever reason it was. But it's the home run hitters, the big time hitters, I really didn't have too much problems with. I had great battles with Barry Bonds. We had the same agent, and I used to tell Barry, just to get in his head, like, I don't know how I get you out, man. You're the greatest hitter ever. And I could see him in that batter's box, just sand dust coming off that bat, like he wanted to hit a home run off of me. So there isn't any particular home run hitters. I mean, McGuire, I faced, and I didn't have no problems with McGuire. Sammy Sosa, another guy I didn't have a problem with. I just throw that dead fish. The thing that helped me out is I would establish a fastball in, And that's something that I don't see right now from pitchers because nobody likes to pitch in no more. So I would pitch in, and that would help me with my changeup, like screwball away. So those guys,
Yeah,
those home run
John, it
hitters.
was amazing because all those years with Pittsburgh, I'd be sitting in the dugout and I'd hear those guys coming back, and they'd be talking about they knew that they were going to get they knew they were going to get the changeup, whatever you call it, the screwball or whatever it was you
Yeah,
throw
yeah.
them. They knew they were going to get one, but they still couldn't hit it. They
Yeah.
it drove them crazy. Barry'd get one, and he maybe he'd pull it foul, and he tried to stay back, and sure enough, you'd get it underneath his hands, and he had no chance.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And they used to get so frustrated coming back to the bench because they knew it was coming, still couldn't do anything with it. So
It's
that's
funny.
the sign of a quality pitch, I'll tell you.
They used to tell me like, "Oh man, you never throw strikes," and everybody. I said, well, "I don't have to throw strikes. The hitters are too dumb. They keep swinging at it, so I'm going to keep throwing it until they stop swinging."
That's
But
right.
early in Barry's career, I threw him a couple of changeups, but then I stopped throwing changeups to Barry for a while. I started to throw fastballs in, fastball away, a little slider, and then not until the 2000 playoff game. Uh, I remember when John Arezzi was our first baseman for the Mets, and he's a tremendous hitter and left-handed hitter, first baseman. That you guys know who he is. And I sat with him and I said to Johnny, I said, "What's the hardest pitch for you to hit against a lefty?" And he said, "A changeup." And I said, "Why?" Because they don't throw it much. Lefties don't throw lefty changeup because it's down and in. Most lefties are low ball hitters. So we were playing the Giants in the 2000 playoffs, and I facing Barry now in a crucial situation. I had a man on first with 2 outs. We were up by a run in the 10th inning, and first pitch was a strike. Next pitch ball. Next pitch strike. Ball. Next pitch fastball. Barry, if he would have hit it, it would have landed in Oakland. He just missed it, fouled it back. So now I went 3-2 on him, and Piazza's throwing fastball sign down, and I'm shaking him off. And I said to myself, "I'm going to throw him a changeup." And at that particular moment, something just snapped in my head, like, let me throw him a changeup. I got an open base here. If I walk him, I walk him. I'll take my chances with the next guy. And for years, I had never threw him, up in the days in Pittsburgh when he first came in. And I threw him a 3-2 changeup, and he, I caught him looking at it. And it's like he was stunned, and I think everybody else was stunned that I threw a 3-2 changeup to him. And the umpire called it a strike. So after the game, I saw Barry, because that wasn't a strike. And I said, "What the umpire call?" He said, "A strike." Then, goddamn, it was a strike, 2 days later, I'm facing him in New York. Yeah, pretty simple. 2 days later, I'm facing him in New York.
Yeah.
And I faced him in New
John, that
York.
was always just one of the things that killed me about sometimes a hitter. They you'd throw him a pitch and they'd swing at it, it's in the dirt, and then to look back at or his ball was down, and they'd look at the umpire, "Is that a strike?" "It is now."
It is now.
I mean,
But the funny, but 2 days later, I faced Barry in New York again, and I know he's looking for a changeup this time. And I just threw him a four-seam fastball up in his zone. He swung and missed at it. So I could see him looking back, like he's looking at me, and I was looking at him, like, I got you, but Barry's got me. I think he hit one off the wall against me. Never gave him a home run. He always said he's going to run around the bases backwards if he hits a home run off of me. But we had some great battles. We had the same agent, so we'd known each other pretty well. But it was just, back in the late 80s, early 90s, it was just real great competition, great competitors on both, the hitters, the pitchers, all the teams were really good. And, you could pitch inside back then, and guys knew that, reason why. Now I see if you pitch inside, everybody wants to fight like you. And I think that's part of the game that the pitchers have gotten away from this quite a bit now.
Yeah, I agree, John. One of the things I talked to Pete Alonso a couple of years ago, and he'd been hit several times, and and we were talking about being hit, and I said, Pete, where do the pitchers pitching? And he said, well, they try to come in on me all the time. I said, well, here they are. They got to pound you in. They're all throwing 100. No, it's not about command anymore. It's about how hard they can throw. I mean, you're in a dangerous spot in today's game, and so
Absolutely.
and that just goes to show a lot of pitchers don't want to pitch inside. They just don't feel comfortable doing it. I had it when I managed the Angels. Chuck Finley was one of the best pitchers that I ever had. He didn't like pitching inside. He didn't like it. He would rather stay on the outside part of the plate. I mean, I think you played with Glavine, didn't you? I mean, Tommy Glavine.
Yeah.
He lived
Yeah.
on the outside part of the plate. That's where he pitched. And then, when we would go in there and face him in Pittsburgh, Jim played all left-handed hitters because he wanted to take that part of the plate away from Glavine. So
You're right. And Bobby Cox used to do that against me, and Joe Torre, when he was the manager for the Cardinals back then, used to and put lefties up against me to take away from my two-seamer and my changeup. So it was interesting that they would, you have to go to plan B now, because these guys, okay, so now that's, like I said, I didn't throw many changeups to lefties, so now I had to go to plan B. And the thing that helped me was my two-seamer. I would start it in the right-handed batter's box and just catch the outside corner. And if I gave up a home run to a lefty to left field, I tip my hat because they earned it. And to hit a home run against a lefty to left field,
Yeah.
that's pretty good hitting.
Well, when you got 400 and some saves, you didn't give up many home runs, I can tell you. So, John, let's talk about let's move into modern day. So, obviously, this shows a lot about the Mets. Did you ever go through what Edwin Diaz is going through right now?
Absolutely. I mean, I blew 3, 4 saves in a row, and my wife Rose, who's been with me since we were high school sweethearts, and she used to say, you can't just blow one in a row. You have to, you got to go 3, 4 in a row. And the thing that I see with Edwin, and I said this earlier in the year to some friends, he missed the whole year of baseball, and the previous year he was lights out. So when you miss a whole year, you're not going. Everybody's expecting him to come back the same pitcher, lights out. It's so hard. But the thing that I see with him is, I think he's, his velocity is there. I think location is not there, and I think you just got to keep throwing him out there. I mean, there are games. So even yesterday's particular game, they were up 2-1, and he's not coming out in the ninth. And I was like, wait a minute, you're paying this guy 20 million, whatever $1 million. He's your guy. So what kind of message is sending? I don't care if he came out, the one thing that I didn't agree with, what he came out and said, that he lost his confidence. And then they said he was crying in front of his locker. I mean, you don't want to report that. You don't want, that's a sign to me, that's a sign like, oh man, I'm, almost giving up. You never give up, man. I never give up. I don't care how many I blow in a row. I'm going to go out there. I knew in my heart that I was going to save more than I was going to blow more. So I feel that Edwin Diaz, he should have been out there. He should be out there every save opportunity until he gets it right. Because what else do you have out there? He's your guy.
John, I gotta agree with you. I mean, here's a guy who is a star, and let's face it, he's one of the elite relievers in the game. And you know what? When you talk about, you lost some confidence, the only way to get it back is to go out and pitch. I mean,
Absolutely.
the same as a hitter. I mean, a guy's in a little bit of a slump. You might want to give him a day just to catch his breath, but then you got to get him back in the batter's box.
Absolutely.
They can't fix it in the batting cage, and they can't fix it in the bullpen. So
absolutely, I agree. And you bring him in the 7th inning in a non-pressure situation. Okay, great. So he had a great inning, but when you're so used to pitching the 9th inning without anybody having your back because it's your inning and there's no net underneath you, this is your game to win or lose. The guy has been one of the best relief pitchers the last couple of years. You got to stay with him. I mean, I don't know what kind of message you're sending. Like, okay, we don't believe in him no more. I don't know if that's the case, but are they just mentally? They want to give him a mentally break, not to be out there. I don't know. Maybe they have these mental skill coaches now, and they have this coach now, and they have that coach now. I remember, I forgot who it was. One of the coaches or managers told me last year or 2 years ago, Brendan Nemo hit 2 doubles and a triple, and the skills coach came in and said, "Oh, you should give him a day off because he ran the bases too much." And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" They came in and said that. And so the manager said, "You go tell him that he can't play." How about if somebody came into you, Terry, and said, "Hey, so-and-so can't play today because he got 3 hits yesterday." I think he would have threw him right out of the office.
Well, not only that, John. First of all, when you call the player in and said, "Hey, by the way, I can't play you today because you did too good yesterday," there's a fight.
Yeah.
A fight's going to occur.
Exactly.
Yeah, and when you're my size, you're not going to win the fight.
No, exactly. I mean, you pitch 2 days in a row. I need 2 days off. I was like, wait a minute now, something's wrong here. I pitched 7 days in a row, 6 days in a row. The game's changed so much. But getting back to Diaz, I think Diaz will be fine. I think they just have to keep throwing him out there. I don't care, especially, New York is a tough place to play. And when you're doing, like I said earlier, when you're doing,
John, you brought up a good point. And I experienced this. I saw it mainly when I had one of the best relievers in the American League, Troy Percival. You'd go 3-4 days where they don't get him for a save situation. You got to get him out there. And so you got to put him in the game. And, no matter what the score is, hey, I got to get you some innings. And I'm telling you what, the fact that edge is missing, hey, look, you're not in a safe situation. You just got to go out and throw your 15 to 20 pitches. They got beat up every time that happened. So
I could attest to that.
What's that, John?
I could attest to that because I hated getting in those situations. But if I didn't pitch 4 days in a row, and they say, "Hey, you're getting an inning here," and it's a whole different mindset. Whole different mindset when you're in there.
And I believe that, and I think that's why if you got this guy and he's it, you got to pitch him in those spots because that's what he's used to. And it's anyway, it's tough to discuss.
He's your guy, right? He's your guy. He's your guy. That's the guy you got to live and die with.
So, John, you got any questions for John?
Oh, absolutely do. Thank you, Terry. John, you grew up in New York. Your dad worked for the New York Department of Sanitation. You honored your father every game by wearing a sanitation shirt under your uniform. What impact did your dad have on your baseball career? And talk about playing in the city you grew up in.
Well, especially in high school and college, my dad was at every game. He wouldn't be one of those guys that stayed behind the plate. And my dad would stay on the first base line or the right field line, just watch the game and be quiet. And people used to say to him like, "Oh, your son this, your son that," and my father said, "My son does his talking between the lines." And if I had a bad game, and there were games, when I pitched with the Dodgers in the minor leagues, and Terry could tell you pitching in Albuquerque was no fun at all. It was just brutal pitching there. And I had some bad games in Albuquerque. And even when I got traded to the Reds in Indianapolis, I was a starting pitcher in the minor leagues. And I had some bad games where I didn't even get out of the first inning. When I would call home and I'd talk to my dad, and he was like the rhyme or reason, okay, don't worry about it, blah, 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 this and that. Just keep even keel, just keep working. He had that, my dad worked for the sanitation for 19 years. I don't think he took a day off unless it was his off day. And he just instilled on me to keep working as hard as you can and fix it. And you have to keep getting out there and get back on that horse. And that's the one thing my dad always instilled to me. So get out there and work as hard as you can. Never hollered. My dad wasn't one of those guys that holler and scream and yell. On the other hand, my brother was like that, but my father's not like that. So, I would call home, and after I got off the phone, I felt good about it. And I get ready to work the next day.
Well, I mean, what a career you've had in New York and all the other places you've been. And you were also team captain. May 4th, 2001, you were named the third team captain in New York Mets history. What was that experience like for you? How did that go down? Was it, Bobby Valentine at the time? And you were the only pitcher in Mets history to be a team captain as well. So kind of go over that experience.
Yeah, how about that? I think it was Turk Wendell who started that. And I think he went into Bobby, and then I think he went around to the rest of the guys, and Bobby was all for it. And our general manager was all for it. So it was quite an honor because, like you said, usually a pitcher is never a team captain. As a relief pitcher, you're almost like a guy that plays every day. But I think for my being a veteran there and playing all the years there and seeing guys come and go in New York and how to handle New York, I wasn't the type of guy that go, okay, you got to do this and you got to do that. I wasn't that type of guy, but I would be the type of guy if I was a captain right now on the Mets and Edwin Diaz was having struggles and he's standing in the outfield, I go talk to him and I said, listen, dude, don't worry about it. Turn the page. I got great advice from one of my first pitching coaches with the Cincinnati Reds, Jim Cott. And I had a bad out, and Jim Cott would come out to the outfield and stand with me and put his arm around me and point up to the sun and say, hey, it came up today. Turn the page. And that's what you have to do, And if guys had bad outings or, something was going wrong, if I could help them out in any way or be the liaison between the manager or the coach and talk to him or like the Mets playing bad, I would call a team meeting sometimes just to get the writers out of the locker room so the guys could just relax, not being around under all that pressure, guys asking questions about what's wrong with the team, what's wrong with this, what's wrong with that. I would say, hey, we're having a team meeting. And then Jay Horwitz, our PR guy, would look at me like, is there a team meeting? I said, no, I just had to get these guys out of here so my guys could relax, So that was part of being the team captain. It was just, I was very grateful, very honored to be one of the team captains. There's only been 4, I believe, and to be a pitcher and be one of those guys, it was a very honored for me to do that, to represent my teammates and the organization.
Well, you mentioned Jay Horwitz, and I know you and Terry have a extreme fondness for Jay. What are some of your favorite Jay Horwitz stories? Because I know you were probably king of all pranks with Jay.
Oh God, there's so many of them. We went into, I think, at Los Angeles one time, and then in the lobby there was a big horse's head and we took the horse's head and we put it up in Jay's bed. We put it underneath the pillow like the Godfather, and we got ketchup and put it all over his bed. And when he came in the room, he opened the light. He said, "What the hell is this?" We also got a bunch of canaries, about 20, 25 canaries, put it in his room, and we turned the lights. And so when he turned the lights would flicker. And when he opened the door, the canaries and the lights, the canaries would fly all around the room. We handcuffed him to his suitcase. I used to color his glasses black on the plane when he was sleeping. When he wake up, he said he couldn't see. Cut his tie, put ice cream in his pockets. But yeah, I mean, there's so many. But put a live rat in his travel bag as he was going up to the press box. We put eye black on his binoculars, so when he looked at it, he came to look like a raccoon. But that's Jay. We love Jay. Jay, the New York Mets are Jay's family, and Jay got me back a couple of times too. I remember one time he put that I was going to pitch for Team Italy in the off season, and Ralph Kiner read it on the air, which it wasn't true. And Ralph Kiner got really mad at Jay for putting that in the game notes. So, but I love Jay to this day. I talk to Jay 2-3 times a week. He's one of my close friends in baseball. And there's nothing that Jay wouldn't do for the players. He would stand if a guy had a bad outing, a guy had a bad night, Jay would be right next to him near that locker. And if he felt that the questions were getting too difficult and the time with the writers, Jay would just say, "Okay, fellas, that was enough." And I'm sure Terry could attest to that too, because he's been around Jay many years. And Jay was just unbelievable guy for the play. He would do anything for the players.
Well, he is a
great
guy. Hey, Terry.
He was the best, John. I'm telling you, the team they need that kind of a guy. They need a guy who can let the players have fun and know that it's not malicious. No, hey, look,
exactly.
it's just it lets them let off a little steam here and there, and he's the guy who can take it and knows there's no hard feelings towards anything, not the pranks, and but he was the best. So certainly, thanks for giving him a good plug.
And there's quite a few things there's quite a few things I can't say on the podcast that we did to him too. But he's a trooper, man. Jay, like I said, he loved being around the guys. And I always told Jay that when the guys start messing with you, that's the day they don't like you. When they keep messing with you, that means they like you. And to this day, when I see Jay, I was with Jay last night at the game, sitting down with him. He looks great. He lost about 35 pounds. He's on a little diet now. It's killing him being at the ballpark, not being able to eat a hot dog or pizza. But he looks great now.
Thanks, John. I'm going to have one more, Terry, and then we'll turn it back to you. And then at the end, we have some fan questions for John.
Right.
Talking about the team this year, John, and you mentioned Edwin Diaz, but the team is really struggling right now. It's kind of almost a free fall situation that no one wants to see. What is your assessment and the outlook for the Mets' future? The Steve Cohen era is here now. Obviously, he's not afraid to spend money. He wants to create that great experience and build that winner on the team, as does David Stearns. So give us, your opinion on what's going on currently with the Mets and looking ahead into the future about this organization.
Well, I think the first thing is that you mentioned David Stern was brought in to bring this organization back to the level where the respectability and where they could win. And I think you have to give him some time. Some of the players that are playing right now aren't his guys that he brought in. They're previous general manager, previous ownership that signed these long-term contracts. So right now, I think that the team is better than what they're playing right now. They're not playing. There's a lot of guys who aren't playing well and aren't hitting well. There's 4 or 5 guys who are averages in the lineup that are probably below 230. The starting rotation, you might have 1 or 2 guys that are pitching well. The kid last night pitched great. Tyler McGill pitched great last night, but unfortunately, the bullpen didn't do their job. And early in the year, the bullpen was doing their job. So, it all catches up to them. The bullpen might be overworked. There's so many things that are gone wrong right now, or going wrong, and I kind of feel bad for the new manager. It's his first year on the job. I don't know him. I've never met him before. So I don't know what kind of personality he has. I'm sure, from what I hear, he's a really nice guy. But there are things where guys, it seems like the whole team's at a slump in the same time, and the bullpen has blown a bunch of games lately. moving to the future, I said the one kid that they brought up, the kid's Chris Scott, I believe, the pitcher. He looks like a pretty good pitcher. And in minor leagues, I think they have some young players that they got in some trades last year. But just have to wait and see on how it's gonna go moving forward. It's hard to say that this is gonna happen here or that's gonna happen there. I think right now, I think David Stern is just assessing everything and see what kind of moves and what needs to be done. Ownership, Mr. Cohen brought him in to run baseball, and I think that's what he's letting him do. And we'll just have to wait and see how it goes. I mean, unfortunately for them right now, they're not playing well, but it's a long season. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And I believe it's usually every year they have one bad month, and it seems like this year it's May. So hopefully when May is gone, they'll play a lot better in June.
Thanks, John. Terry?
Yeah, I mean, John, again, I agree with what you're saying with the situation. It's going to be, hey, look, they're professional athletes, and they've got to go out and they got to do their job. And the more pressure you put on yourself to excel, to try to be the guy, the tougher it is to play. You just got to go be who you are, play your game, pass the baton to the next guy. But the game has changed today. I mean, we all know you're being rated now for certain things that some guy. I mean, I remember a couple of years ago they had a couple of players that hey, we got to get this guy to hit the ball in the air so he can hit the ball in the ballpark, when they couldn't hit the ball out of the ballpark. I mean, if you're only going to hit 4 or 5 home runs, hey, look, you got to do other things to help the club win. And I think right now we do know that this, in the media capital of the world, there's a lot of attention. And by the way, those guys in that clubhouse, no matter what anybody thinks, the sports writers in New York they have no problem walking you up and asking you a tough question in the clubhouse. And they hear it all the time. They know that there's a little pressure on them. They just got to go play. They got to go have some fun a little bit and go play the game hard. So when the game's over, you left it on the field. And you know what? Some nights you're going to win. Some nights you're going to have a tough night. But that you can't look back about yesterday. You got to get ready for tomorrow or tonight. And that's all they can do. And obviously, with the roles today in the game, with the way pitchers are being used, your bullpen's going to get worn out early in the season. And that's why you've got to have depth. And that's why I thought one of the things they did last winter was to go get themselves some depth, because injuries today are off the charts important. I mean, I can't believe how many guys are getting hurt playing the game of baseball in today's game. So, all we can do, like you said, all we can do is, hey, they played 55 games. They're a long way to go. You have a big June, you go 20-5 in June, and everybody forgets what happened in May.
Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right. It's everybody forget what you did in April, as long as you do well in September,
That's
so
right. That's right.
I remember them telling me I can blow a save in April, and nobody remember that. If I blow a save in September, that's the ones out there remember. So
that's very true.
But like I said before, I think they'll be okay. They just, like you said, Terry, I think a lot of guys are putting a lot of pressure on themselves. They're trying to do too much. Last night I saw the Dodgers were down by a run. They did a squeeze play. I haven't seen a squeeze play in years. That's a little bit here and there, a little small ball. Not everybody's going to hit home runs. I think, especially nowadays with all the analytics and the sabermetric stuff and the lift launch and the spin rate. I mean, sometimes I think there might be too much information for these guys to see and think about, rather than just get the ball, see the ball, hit the ball, and play the game the way it used to be played.
John, ultimately, that's what you've got to do. I don't care how much knowledge you have, and there's so many percentages out there now. Well, you go up to hit, and there's a 35% chance you're going to get a 4-seam fastball. There's a 25% chance you're going to get a 2-seamer. There's another 25% chance you're going to get a slider. Hey, look, go do what you got to do. Get ready to hit a fastball and make some adjustments. Use the whole field. That's why that field's so big out there. And Citi Field is big. There's a lot of space out there. So, but it doesn't always have to happen with ball landing in the bullpen. Put it in play. And as we've talked about for 50 years in the game, a ball that's hit can be dangerous no matter how hard it's hit.
Yeah, you put it in play, you never know what's going to happen.
That's right. All right, John, you got some questions from the fans?
Yes, we do. We got a few questions from the fans, and this one comes from Instagram, and it is from Green Machine 82. Who would be on John's Mount Rushmore of closers or relievers?
Well, obviously, Mariano Rivera, I think, is the all-time greatest reliever of all time. Raleigh Fingers, I thought was great. Bruce Sutter. You know, you got to put Trevor Hoffman up there. You know, those guys have done it. So those guys right there have been great. And one of my favorite guys, even he's left-handed, was Dave Righetti. So I have to put Rags up there just because he's left-handed.
There you go. Another question comes in from at Mets fan 962. John, what was the biggest save you ever got in your career?
Probably striking out Barry Bonds in the 2000 playoffs. I think that was probably the biggest save that I got. You know, we were down. We lost the first game of the playoffs, and then we were winning the second, and then Armando Benitez gave up a two-run homer to JT Snow. They tied it up, and then Bobby brought me in later in the inning, in the 10th inning, where Armando went out, and then I struck Barry to end the game. So I'd probably say that was probably top one for me right now. The only reason why I say that because it's still fresh in my mind, and I'm kind of too old to remember how far back.
Quite a while ago. Another question from Alex Ortez 5. Talk about switching uniform numbers when you went from number 31 to 45. I'm sure there's an interesting story behind it.
As you know, my number's retired right now in City Field because it's 31. That was my number. I gave it to Mike Piazza. So, but you know, Mike and we had this agents, and you know, my agents, they had quite a few players. So Mike was one with my agency. I felt at the time that when we got Mike, he was probably one of the top 5 players in the game, and I wanted him to make him feel comfortable here. And I always loved Tug McGraw growing up, and my number in college was 45. So I said, this is a great opportunity for me to switch to 45 and give Mike 31 to make him feel comfortable, which I did. And Mike was very nice to have Leroy Neiman, famous artist, sports artist, do a portrait of me. So that was Mike's gift to me for giving my number up to him. At that time, I probably could have used a house or a car, but you know, I got a portrait from Leroy Neiman, so it was pretty good.
We got one more for you, and this one also comes from Instagram. And the question really is, well, you were not a lights out reliever with high velocity, but a solid fastball. You'd often get batters out by throwing them a changeup that was off the corner out of the strike zone. Do you think a pitcher like yourself would be effective in today's game with so many relievers regularly hitting 95 plus and the focus being on velocity rather than mixing those pitches up?
Absolutely, because I knew how to pitch.
Yeah.
I would change speeds. Hit location. A lot of these guys coming in, you know, and Terry could attest to this. I don't care if you throw 100 miles an hour; those hitters could hit a 100-mile-an-hour fastball if it's not in the right location. And you know, he mentioned Tom Glavine earlier and Greg Maddux. Those guys didn't throw hard, but they got people out by changing speeds and hitting location. I don't have no problem when I look at the game today, and I see how pitchers. I had a great example last night where the pitcher for the Dodgers threw 2 fastballs by Lindor, and he fouled it off the third base side. And then he decided to throw a curveball, and he sped up Lindor's bat, and Lindor hit a home run. So these are the little things that I see that, you know, why is he gonna throw him a curveball when he just couldn't get around on his fastball? So locations and everything, I think definitely I could pitch in today's game, no problem at all. You know, like I said, I think I'm a lot smarter than the hitters, and I think I frustrate the hitters. As Terry used to say, guys used to come back to the dugout and say, you know, shit, this guy's got shit. How the hell, you know? But you know, they're 0 for 4. You know, this guy. You know, I always used to love the hitters coming back to the dugout. Oh man, this guy's got nothing. But meanwhile, they're 0 for 3. You know, so he must have something to get them out. So yeah, to answer that question, yes, I have no doubt in my mind I could pitch. You know. Even now, if I could pitch from 30 feet right now, I'll get anybody out.
There you go. There you go. One final question for me, actually, is like, do you have a desire to get back into the game, either as a pitching coach, part of coaching staff, instructor? Would you go back into the game if given that opportunity?
I've been saying that since day one, since I retired, since 2005, and it's gone on deaf ears. So I'm getting to the point now where I just, you know, nobody wants any information from a guy who played over 20 years and got over 400 saves and over 1,100 appearances. And I just don't understand how, you know, I've mentioned it to the Met organization. I mentioned it to Major League Baseball, even Team Italy when they were in the World Classic, to to be a coach, but it just goes on deaf ears. So I come to live with the fact that they're just, there's a lot of people out there who think they're a lot smarter, but there's a lot of people who haven't had the experience that I had that I could instill on some of these younger players. So, I just sit home and wait, and I live 20 minutes from the stadium. And haven't gotten one phone call since 2005. So the only thing I do miss, I wish I would have played for Terry. I think that he's a little bit of old school guy, which I will love. One of my favorite managers was Dallas Green, and Dallas Green was an old school guy, and I love playing for Dallas. And I think Terry fits that mold. He tells it like it is. And I had the pleasure when I did go to spring training one year with the Mets, and Terry and I sat in the game. I believe we were in Jupiter watching Steve and Matt's pitch, and then we were talking about moving him over to one side of the rubber because he was having trouble moving the ball in. So these little things like that I pick up, and Terry's a baseball guy, and you pick up stuff like that. But I don't think the people in the analytic department or the guys who've never played pick up stuff like that.
Thank you, John.
Yeah,
Well, John,
I would like
thank
to,
you.
but who knows?
Yeah, I will tell you, the time's coming because, this is the perfect example of the situation we just discussed. That if there's one guy who, could have some advice to help Edwin Diaz, the man sitting right here on the podcast. I mean, one of the greatest closers in Met history in New York, one of the greatest closers in baseball, been through all the tough times. Just a conversation. He doesn't have to go talk to all the boys. He can go out and go out the ballpark, put your uniform on, go sit in the bullpen for a while with Edwin Diaz. Those are the kind of things that the game misses today. Are the guys who've done it, who've been there, who've lived it, who've had struggles and yet had success at the same time. I mean, that stuff's invaluable today. And we're reading, John, as you know, every day in the newspapers now, how the mental side of the game. Here's one of the most mentally strong human beings I've ever been around in my life. You don't think he's got something to add? So yeah. So I feel bad because I know John wants to get back in somehow, and he doesn't. He's not looking to be he just wants to help. He just wants to help the organization, and there's got to be a place for him somewhere.
Listen, I grew up a Met fan. I root for the Mets. I would love to see them win. When I played, we were always the second child in the city to the Yankees because the Yankees were very, very successful. And there's nothing more that I would love more than help this organization win a championship. But you could only knock on the door. If they don't let you in, they don't let you in. So it is what it is, and I come to deal with it. And I'm kind of enjoying myself now because I get to travel a lot now too. It's no sweat off my back. I've been going to places that I never would have been to if I was still playing. So, but listen, my door is always open, and I'll listen to whatever they have to offer. And if they want my advice and help, that'll be great. If not, I'll just move on and be a spectator and watch the game from the stands and second guess like everybody else does.
Well, John, thanks for coming on the show. I really, really appreciate it. Great longtime friend, and I hope to see you real soon.
Thanks, Terry. It's always great to see you, and hopefully I'll see you this weekend at the Strawberry sometime, either Friday, Saturday, or whatever it is. But the great thing about this weekend that I'm going to enjoy is Sunday. I get to take my grandson to his first baseball game. He's 2 years old. Man. So I'm looking forward to that so much.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
All right, John. TC, you got it, man. Take care. Bye-bye.
Everything is advertised. John Franco, I mean, he speaks straight from the heart. He doesn't hold anything back. What a great interview that was, Terry.
Yeah, he's a great guy. And I'll tell you, John, baseball needs the John Francos. They need him to be involved. They need, he could help in so many ways. And, and I know it's a tough life. And, especially when you get older, the grinding schedule gets to be tough, but John Franco can help. He can help some people in that organization. I hope he gets the opportunity because I know he's dying to get back in somehow.
Yeah, and he's right there. He's still got that passion in his heart, and he wants to help, and that's the most important thing. And I think, as you said, he really could help some of these young pitchers today. He really can. But hopefully he'll get that shot. But Terry, right now it's time for another Amazin Hero of the Week, highlighting a story about a hero who showed the spirit of the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. This week, we honor Navy Air crewman James Jimmy Borak, our Amazin Hero of the Week.
Jimmy was amazing. He was the best husband, my best friend, my soulmate, and the best father on this planet. He was incredible. He was made to help people. Jimmy's first rescue was at a restaurant in Salem, Virginia, and he saved a guy that was choking. So I think from then he knew he was supposed to do something big in the world. And one day he came home and said, I want to join the Navy. I was a little fearful, but I said, okay, if that's what you want to do. He was also the best air crewman, if you ask me, but he was incredible. So rescue swimmer is a naval air crewman. They are in the back of the helicopter and they save people. So his job was to make sure that if anybody ever went down, he was prepared and trained to immediately take action and to bring those people back home to their family. He was a hero. He lived his life to serve others. In 18 seconds, it took 18 seconds for the helicopter that he was in to land on the deck of the USS Abraham Lincoln and to go over the side. So in 18 seconds, my whole entire life crashed. When the command calls, you know that something bad has happened to your life. I did not know what I was going to do. There's such a big burden on you as now the sole provider, right, for your family. I have a little boy to raise. I can't work the hours that I worked before. What do you do? And I got a call from Tunnel to Towers, and they said, we're going to take care of your mortgage for Jimmy on Veterans Day.
All right, you ready?
It changed my life. It changed my son's life. They were the olive branch extended to me when I didn't even know that I needed it. It's given me an opportunity to continue to honor Jimmy and to serve his legacy the way that I wanted. It changed everything to be able to know that even though this terrible thing happened to you, that there are people in your corner and they're gonna make sure that Jimmy is honored and remembered and his name will still be spoken, hopefully long after my days.
Join us in supporting our nation's heroes and their families now. It only takes $11 a month to make a positive impact.
We will feature another Amazin Hero next week, brought to you by Tunnel to Towers. Your pledge of just $11 a month will transform the life of an injured service member, Gold Star family, or the family of a fallen first responder. Together, we can do good for these heroes. Go to t2t.org and donate today. Well, Terry, that's about wrap it up for this week's Terry Collins Show. Another good one in the books and a great interview with Johnny Franco. So I know that our next episode, you'll be bringing somebody on, and we don't have that person yet, but I know you're working, as always, on bringing some of the classic members of the New York Mets alumni on this show, and you're always working the phones.
Yeah, we're gonna have some fun people on, John. I've talked to a number of guys, and they say, "Oh yeah, fit me in. Try to fit me in." Now it's a matter of making sure their schedule meets with ours. But we're gonna have some fun people on.
Yeah, it's been a great season so far, and we look forward to the remainder of this season, and maybe the Mets can bounce back a little bit. You never give up. If you're a Mets fan, you never give up, and we're certainly hoping for the best for this ball club. You can follow Terry on X and Instagram at TerryCollins_10, and for those of you on Facebook, follow Terry there at the Terry Collins Show. You can follow me on X and Instagram simply at John Arezzi. And make sure you subscribe now to the Terry Collins Show wherever you listen to your favorite podcast and on YouTube. Until next time, this is John Arezzi for Terry Collins. Have a great week, everyone.